Anyone have like a music playing in the background by any chance?
Yes, I think
Okay.
that's us. Is that bothering?
It's just I can't really hear the music. It just sounds like a
Oh.
beeping tone on my sound side. That's
Maybe if we put it over there. How about now?
Better.
right. Yeah, I can't hear it at all right now. So.
Oh, okay, fantastic.
A little bit, but it's fine.
All right, maybe if you could sit a little bit more to your right or something. Yeah, is that okay? All right, welcome to class, guys. You're the only two ones joining live today. Oh, and one of the students was, well, actually more than one, but one actually asked us if it would be at all possible to do class at 6 instead of, it's 7. Yeah, to do it at 6 instead of 7.
Yeah, for me that would actually be perfect.
Oh, why can't we hear them? Oh.
Say that again?
For me that would be also very convenient, actually.
And Simona, what do you think?
To me, it doesn't matter necessarily. I was set for 7. I'm working during the day, but I should be able to adapt. The later, the better for me. So I have a better chance of attending. But if the bigger size of the group says 6.
Yeah, then we'll send out an email. It does seem like for more, because there's also like a few in Australia and in Bali, and for them it's just like 1 a.m., 3 a.m. So let's see. We'll send out an email tomorrow, and we'll gauge what seems best for the group. Yeah, thank you for being flexible.
Yeah.
All right, guys, welcome to class. I'm just gonna mute you for now, like usual. Mute and mute. So today's class, we're going to talk about love. And I'm really, really excited to talk about this. And I'm really excited to talk about love in a way that isn't usually talked about. These days, love, romance and relationships have become kind of synonymous with love. And, we're teaching a course, Awakened Love, and of course, a lot of that has to do with relationships, with relating to others. But before all that, before any of that, this course is about love, and life is about love. And life is not about relationships, and it's not about romance. Those things are very, very wonderful. But I think we get into trouble a lot of the times because we don't actually know what love is. And so we keep looking for it, we keep yearning for it, we keep striving, we keep trying. And then we end up in situations where we get to learn sometimes, what love is. A lot of the times, what we learn is how hard it can be to love. Or rather, where our walls, our barriers to love are, where our heart is wounded, the places where we do not love ourselves. That's usually the case with, relationships and going out into the world these days. When I say only love is real, take just a second to think about that, to feel like, what does that feel like to you? Only love is real. And sometimes it seems easy to accept that in the moment, or as a nice spiritual concept. But to understand what it means that only love is real can change a lot of things in your life. So love is not an emotion. Love is not even a feeling. It's not something we give. It's not something we receive. Love is what we are. Love is where we came from. It's a state of consciousness, a state of being. And it is inseparable from happiness, from peace, from joy, from forgiveness, from appreciation, satisfaction, gratitude, contentment. The first mistake that we usually make is thinking that we need love. But love is just like oxygen. You need it in one sense, but on the other hand, you don't have to go and look for it. Oxygen is everywhere. But it's up to us how deep we breathe, how much we let in. If we breathe very shallowly or very deeply and calmly. And if we try to control it, if we become too self-conscious about our breath, usually we restrict it. And it's the same with love. The moment we think love is something that we need to work for, that we need to be after, that we can get from anywhere outside of ourselves, is immediately when the flow of love is interrupted. Well, our experience, our receiving of the love is interrupted. It's not that it's actually ever truly interrupted, but it's completely blocked from your awareness the moment you start looking for it or bargaining for it or fighting for it, pushing for it. And not only our intimate relationships and, relating to our friends, our parents, our colleagues, not only those relationships are impaired, but first and foremost, the relationship with ourselves and the relationship with life itself. When we are not connected to this inner source of love. So we're going to begin today with a little invocation or prayer, however you like it.
Take a deep breath and close your eyes. As you inhale and exhale, feel the ebb and flow of life within yourself. The movements, the happenings, everything happening spontaneously, the breathing, the heartbeat, the kidney, the eye, every organ, cell doing its function effortlessly. As the atmosphere, as the solar system, as the earth, as the quantum fields and energies, as the spirits and entities. Everything flowing and happening in its fullness of expression and isness, in a state of service and love. That is the love. The dance and co-creation of life that comes from the abundance of life. Just as you come into existence through the making love of two beings, our consciousness is the making love of higher being, higher consciousness of, call it God, source energy with itself. Because it's full of love. It loves itself. Out of that love is born you and me and everything, all aspects of creation. Whatever thoughts are going through your mind, allow them to come and go, just like the ebb and flow of the water. See? And everything, your breathing, feelings as it comes and goes. Feel it, sense it, recognize it from a state of presence, which you are beyond thoughts, feelings, and form. This love is always here, always feeding everything. And we don't experience only what we're thinking of the small mind, of what we think is our mind. And the no mind is to surrender your small mind to the higher mind that governs all things, effortlessly, with might and beauty and love and grace. And this love is so inherent within you and me, within all of creation. That if you just surrender your mind, your limited beliefs, it's just a matter of time that it takes over. Rather, it's instant. So let's tune into this love and with this heart, with this intention, with this desire, come to transform what is unconscious into consciousness, love, and purity. And everything shall be transformed in time. Nothing is lost. come back when you feel ready to.
Yeah, the way we go out into the world these days, not consciously, but subconsciously. From the moment we wake up to the moment we go back to bed, we're actually looking for love. In each moment where we don't feel like connected to our higher selves, connected to source, we're unconsciously, continuously looking for something. Like, what is missing? What is this uncomfortable feeling? Why do I get triggered again and again and again? And then we ask ourselves, then we wonder, well, why aren't my relationships the way I would like them to be? It's because the moment you're looking for love, like I said, the search for love is what interrupts the flow. Each moment in which you are not giving love, extending love, simply by feeling love, feeling connected to your own inner source of love, or rather to know that you are love, is when we push it away in others. Is when our pain body gets activated. Is where we perceive others as our enemy. And all of this might sound rather extreme, like, what, I'm searching for love all day long, I'm seeing everyone as my enemy. If you would take a moment, either now or throughout your day, to check in with that, you will probably find how true that is. We're so armored against the world, we're so armored against other people. This is why it's so difficult to go deep into relationships, deeper and deeper and deeper. Because it means we have to be really vulnerable and to really, really face ourselves, which means to face the parts of ourselves that we do not love. So how do we shift from being in the world and unconsciously looking for love, feeling like love is lacking, to feeling that we are love? We are the source of our own love and we can just extend it and not feel like we're taken advantage of, or that might be too big of a risk. What if someone hurts us or disrespects us? Or we might not get our way. We might not get our needs met if we simply come from a place of love. Well, love itself says there is nothing in any moment that could be missing. Love itself is complete. So if you are love, how could there ever be anything that's lacking? How could there ever be any real danger if you are love? That's because there's two parts to us. We've mentioned this in class before. And in all the different ways we can say that. There's your higher self, your true self, your whole self, your authentic self, your unbroken stream of consciousness. And then there's a small self, the separated self, which for convenience sake we refer to as ego, your ego self.
Which you can imagine as the tip of the iceberg. The ego self, imagine it as the tip of the iceberg that thinks of itself as separate from, that is not aware of the whole grounds of its existence, which is beyond, which is in the unseen, in the non-physical aspect of, like, non-revealed aspect. And so thinking that for a lot of people who have been focusing through this body, for them this is real. So this separate sense of separateness, that I'm here and she's over here separate, feels more real when you're looking through these senses. Also, what we can perceive through our eyes is less than 0.1% of what really exists. So we're literally blind. We're seeing through our eyes. So, but when you're going within, which is being here now, tuning in, listening, feeling,
knowing,
then you're accessing the realm of the higher mind, of your higher mind, of the ground of existence, the ground of your existence, which is the same for all of us in some level. In the highest level, in the deepest level, it is the same one consciousness, the same one source of all things.
And so your higher self operates from the level of love, and your ego operates from the level of fear. Love being simply what we are, uninterrupted stream of consciousness. What you are when you drop all that you are not. What is left is love. It's not a feeling of, oh, I really like this person, or I'm going to give that person a compliment, or you know what, I'm just going to be nice to this person, or commit to this person for the rest of my life. That has very little to do with love, ultimately. And fear is what happens when we incarnate here and there becomes a little filter, which we call ego. That separated thing is very fearful. And from that place of fear, it makes all these other little things. Anger, jealousy, resentment, judgment, all comes down to fear. It all comes from a place of fear. So imagine, if you will, that you have two pairs of glasses. And through one of them, you see the world with love. And through the other, you see the world through fear. And close your eyes for a moment. And put on the glasses of fear. From this perspective, from this perception, this world is this life is a hard place. You know, this world is scary. It's full of challenges and people that challenge us, and so many things throughout the day that we feel like we need to defend ourselves against, lest we be hurt, lest we be taken advantage of, lest we maybe not make enough money, or maybe someone wouldn't like us. This thing that I did or said or thought 10 minutes ago, 3 days ago, 6 years ago, those things are still around to haunt me. when I'm looking through the glasses of fear. Past is always haunting me. The future just brings anxiety, like, oh my God, how do I get my shit together so that tomorrow works out, and then and the next day and the next day and next year and 10 years from now? How do I get my needs met? That's fear. What do people think about me? How should I behave? I can't show my true self. I'll be rejected, ridiculed, mocked. And I'll put these glasses aside and put on the glasses of love. Wow. Just a big sigh of relief right there. Whew. Everything is okay. Everything is safe. Everything is working out. Regardless of what it looks like. And you know what? This place feels so good. I don't care what this person says or that person does. It's not really. It's not that I can't see it or register it. Just doesn't leave a very big, painful imprint or create drama. With these glasses on, it's easy to forgive. It's easy to open your heart. When I look through the filter of love, I just see solutions. I just see life in whatever way it presents itself to me right now, right here. And I know that I'm safe always. I know that I'm held, guided, supported. It's like a protective little bubble around you, but not a bubble that excludes others and keeps them out and their negative energy. No. It's a bubble that whoever wants to come in, they can come in, but it's up to them to make that step. Love doesn't force anyone. But you can choose to be inside that bubble. And through the eyes of love, you can see perfection. Not perfection from ego's perspective, mind you, but from love's perspective. That regardless of what anything looks like, it is perfect. And all of a sudden, through these glasses, you can see your own perfection. meaning, your wholeness, your innocence. That all these crazy and insane and painful things you've been thinking about yourself, it's not actually you, not the true you. That's just if you put on the glasses of fear, through the glasses of love. Those things are seen as just innocent little misunderstandings, mistakes, easily corrected. How? You put on the glasses of love, and instantly those things are corrected. And with these glasses on, you breathe a little deeper. You move a little slower. There's nothing to defend anymore. So play around with these two glasses, these two perspectives, whenever you can. Always ask yourself, which glasses am I wearing? In each moment, you are either being love, feeling love, extending love, giving love, all the same, basically. When you are centered in your love, you're automatically giving of love. So you're either always in that place, or you're looking for love. You're trying to get love. You're trying to get others to give you love. And that can come in many forms, many ways. Usually ends up in us feeling, victimized, hurt, upset, triggered, jealous, lonely. Could you check on the music? So usually we're in relationships, intimate relationships, friendships. And usually by that time it can be already a little bit too late, It's never too late, but sometimes we do get into relationships from that state, from that place. Or we're yearning for someone to be in a relationship with. Or we're yearning for our relationship to be better, to be different. And instead of working on all of that on a superficial level, working on the relationship, working on readying ourselves for a partner, all super valid things, by the way. But today I want to talk about activating the vibration of love within yourself. Or coming home to the love that you are. Simply coming home to yourself. Because usually we put so much expectations on our partner, on our friends, on our, anyone that we meet, really. To treat us a certain way and to give us certain things and for ourselves to feel validated and heard and seen, respected, cared for, loved. Now, these are in and of themselves not necessarily wrong, but the thing is, when you come home to the love that you are, all of this will just become a lot more automatic. We personally don't really find ourselves, actually we don't hear it, dealing with with the kind of people and relationships in our life where we feel this is lacking. You know, that's not to say if there is someone in your life, whether someone, you know, has been there for a while or we just meet them, if their behavior is completely off, of course, you know, do something with that. But it's different than to demand something from others and to feel like they should be giving us this and that, and they should be treating us a certain way. They really, really don't have to.
I think one thing you can do is whenever you find yourself thinking, oh, that person should treat me better, or I should get this, or I deserve to get this, or I deserve to be with someone or something. Remember to dive into love yourself. That's because you're thinking that way because you're not loving yourself. So that can be for you a permission slip to remember, oh, self-love time, consciously. And then from there, in some time, it's going to shift to unconsciously being tuned into yourself, to your feelings, impulse, inspiration. But until then, consciously, when you have that feeling of lack, here's the thing: when you feel lack, the only thing the love you lack is the love you're not giving.
Yeah.
And so when you feel there's something lacking, extend it. So instead of only even thinking, oh, I'm going to love myself, extend it. And experiment with it, play with this idea. If you want forgiveness, extend forgiveness. That's how you receive forgiveness. And same with love. And you're going to find it to be self-sustaining and filling your own cup from your inner source. And you are connected to that source. Always, always, always. Never been a moment that you have never been connected to that source. But if you're in your mind often, then you feel separate from that source. You look around, you think, oh, life is dull, life is what it is, simple things, barely anything happening. But you have to understand, when the sun is being the sun, it's not just sitting and where it is and just lighting. It's like moving, so extending itself of its fullness. It's like being so deeply passionate, so much burning and passion that energy just bursts out in its fullness of expression because it's tuned into itself. And that is the birthright of everybody, everything in creation and existence has its full potential encoded within the universe. And we, being free will beings, have the possibility to choose to tune into that highest possible expression of self, of love, of consciousness, or a state of separation by focusing into certain thoughts. Wherever you focus, where attention goes, energy goes. And then you feel things, and then you're thinking about them, and then it's on, and your reality reflects it back to you.
And throughout the later weeks of this course, as you may have seen in the handout or the manual, there's a lot of, there's certain tools that we're going to use to find those places in ourselves that we do not love, the places that we project onto others. But in essence, it's very simple. Whenever you feel like you're not in a place of love, you got to be wondering, like, well, what am I believing? What am I thinking right now that is causing me this? And I know how hard it is to go from pointing the fingers there to pointing the fingers here. But ultimately, that is what love is, you know, taking responsibility. So pointing the finger towards yourself, not in a blaming way, that is not what love does. Love is, okay, I am perfect, I am whole, there is nothing that can be lacking in any moment. It's simply not possible, which is, to the ego, that sounds like blasphemy. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Of course there is all these things missing. Why do I go out into the world and you know, make money and try and prove myself? And why do I have discussions?
X acting this way and she's acting that way?
And this person said that, and this person did this, and oh my god, and my partner, what the hell? There's something in each of those moments that you are believing about yourself, rather that your ego is whispering into your ear. But for now, we're not going to make that distinction yet. That's also going to come later in the course. Like, you are not your ego, you're not your mind. But for now, it's like, okay, let's say you are saying that to yourself. You are thinking these thoughts. There's all these definitions and belief systems like, well, he should be doing this or that. She should not be saying this and this and that.
Yeah.
Just because that's a certain preference that you have, and that's simply because that would have made you feel more comfortable, doesn't mean that anyone should behave in any other way than they are. You know, sometimes we get to a point where it's like, from a place of love, where we can remove ourselves from a situation or from a certain person. But the point is more what's going on inside of us, you know, not the action we take on the outside, but how we shift on the inside. That's the miracle. Awakening, quantum shifting consciousness. When we change our minds, when we choose to look through the glasses of love instead of fear, that right there, in each tiny moment you can do that, is enlightenment. It's the end of suffering. Would you rather, in any given moment, be on the receiving end of the end of suffering, or being right about something, or getting your way, or speaking your truth? Those things can still happen. But you have to make one or the other a priority. I think it's Byron Katie. She says, you can be right or you can be free. Higher self always chooses to be free. What does free mean? Freedom from suffering. Freedom from, freedom from being a victim, playing the victim. Or you can be right. That is what your ego loves. Everyone's ego loves that. So, how do we ensure also that we fill up our own cup of love so that we become less needy and dependent and commanding of other people to give it to us? How do we transform everything we see and touch into love? We're going to work with one of the most important tools of this course in a moment, but I also want to give something for something different. So imagine falling in love. In the best way, in the most amazing way. And this person, you know, obviously like loving you back all the way. How invincible you feel, how abundant you feel, how beautiful, sexy, generous, inspired, energized. How all of a sudden all the colors are more vivid. Everyone you meet, whatever they say, they can throw shit at your head. You're still like, life is good. That feeling is a choice in each moment. You do not necessarily need another person for that. I know, I'm pretty sure all three, well, I mean, all four here are in a relationship. When you fall in love with a person, what is actually happening is a miracle. You perceive through the eyes of love. You have something, someone, something that you're pouring so much positive energy and thought in. But the thing is, that positive energy and thought, you are receiving it. And this other person that's giving so much positive energy and thought to you, you're not receiving that. It's being reflected to you, but they are receiving it. You're on the receiving end. But trust me, the person that feels love, feels loving energy, loving thought, they themselves are the number one recipient.
Totally.
So do you think that's really only possible for when you fall in love in the first few months? And that is the highest experience of love? For a lot of people, yes. And that is why the world is in such, kind of in the way that it is today, because we're all perceiving a lack of love in ourselves. And we're all blaming everyone else, except the person that we've just fell in love with, and they are usually just the first few months. And after that, it becomes sometimes, in a lot of cases, hard to keep it up. Because reality sets back in. No, unreality sets back in. Love is reality.
Fantasy. The fantasy of reality, the illusion.
Yeah, that sets back in after a while, yeah. So I want you to know and let's do this every morning this week. So I'm going to put that in the homework. Even if you just take 1 minute in the morning with yourself, can be before you even get out of bed. Visualize, imagine that you are madly in love and someone is madly in love with you. And that person is God. That person is your higher self. Or love itself, whatever works for you. You're completely loved, cherished, adored, seen, appreciated, cared for. In this way, we hold ourselves in that way when we go out into the world and when we go into our relationship, We're in bed, we open our eyes, and then we don't go into the day expecting all these things from our partner or from our neighbor or our friend or our boss. And with time, I'm sure you'll find, like, the more you live in the vibration of love, people will respond differently to you. And when they don't, you also don't feel it that strongly. Not that personally. Instead of, if someone behaves in a certain way or reacts in a certain way or treats you in a certain way, instead of feeling that lack of love activating you, you just recognize that they experience a lack of love. That's why they behave the way they do. And you can have more compassion, forgiveness. So yeah, this is a really wonderful way to fill your own cup, with love, with energy, with bliss, with abundance, joy, ease, happiness. These are all just words, and they cannot be separated from one another. They're all slightly different, but they sort of come down to the same thing. Inner peace. I just mentioned forgiveness. Forgiveness is a tool that we're going to work with today. Forgiveness is what I prayed for 9 or 10 months, up until earlier this year. And what caused the biggest breakthrough in my life in terms of consciousness, in terms of, waking up to my higher self and loving myself truly. Forgiveness in this world is used in a very interesting way. Anything in life can be used or can be perceived through the eyes of ego or higher self. Yeah, you're going to hear us say this a lot because we really it's so fundamental. So when the ego uses forgiveness, it says, this person has done something wrong. I'm just going to be a good boy or girl. I'm going to take the high road and forgive them. That is not what forgiveness is. That is judgment.
And that forgiveness oftentimes does not really forget. It does not forget. There's a saying, forgive and forget, or don't forget. There's no liberty in that kind of forgiveness. It's a lot of times it's a holier than thou kind of, I'm better, so I'm going to prove my betterness by saying, I forgive you. And very likely I'm going to hold it against you another time. It could be some months down the road.
10 years, 20 years.
Like, hey, you did that. But forgiveness does not. Forgiveness sees there was no error in the first place, because forgiveness recognizes that love is the ultimate reality. It's not about you being judged for something you did. It's a misperception.
Forgiveness sees a lack of love in someone else, basically a cry for love, right? And answers with love. And the thing why we don't usually are very capable of doing this is because what got triggered in us, why we're hurt in the first place, is because of our own lack of love in that place that got triggered. So forgiveness is a bridge to unconditional love. And unconditional love is kind of like saying like a round circle. If it's not unconditional, it's not love. But, we're going to keep calling it unconditional love just to make sure that we're on the same page.
And then that means there are no conditions.
Yeah.
No condition, no reason to say, oh, as long as you do this, I can love you, or because you didn't do that, I don't love you. Unconditional is no conditions. Love.
And again, why this is usually so hard to do is because we do not know that we are love and that there's nothing inside of us that is not love. So if we feel, ourselves lacking in love, it's very hard to forgive. But, oh my God, the feeling, the first time that you truly forgive, even when you yourself feel you are not completely 1000% love, your ego will always keep telling you that, always, otherwise it will be gone. The moment you choose to forgive anyway, you're simply saying, you're simply declaring, I am love. And it might take, this sounds really funny, it might take some practice and you're like, well, forgiveness sounds easy enough. No, true forgiveness can be one of the hardest things we've ever done. And that's why it's so powerful. True forgiveness is the bridge to unconditional love. True forgiveness is like a balm, a healing balm that you put on the scars of your heart. So forgiveness is not, in the end, it's not really for the other person. It is the most amazing gift we can give, but in the end, we do give it to ourselves. So think about that as an incentive to forgiving. It's a balm that heals the scars in your heart.
And also, the amazing thing about it is that it works both ways. It heals the scars in your heart and in the heart of the other person. It's also a declaration of freedom, of not holding yourself to unnecessary things that don't serve you, and not holding the other person as well. Being free to be and to love, to express. Nothing that hinders you in your evolution.
And I think that the toughest thing to come to terms with in terms of forgiveness is we're not really forgiving the other person. That can be a step along the way. That can be helpful, certainly. But in the end, what we're truly forgiving is ourselves. What we're forgiving is that we could not, in that moment, that something happened and someone did something to us. That's usually, the reason for feeling like we have to forgive, right? Well, they did this and this and this. Forgiveness then goes into, well, they did this and this and this, but how did I react? Did I react with love? No. Otherwise, I would not feel this way. So here is when it becomes a little bit tricky. To see someone else's actions and to go within. Again and again and again and again and again. To see that it is yourself that you are mad with. And this other person is functioning as a mirror, a reflection board, showing you where you have a scar on your heart, or a barrier or a wall around your heart. That's what you're angry about. Because they revealed something that you did not want to have revealed. If you loved yourself fully and completely, which is the same as to say that, to know that you are love, or that love is your true nature, or that your, you know, source is love, and, you know, all of that. Doesn't matter in which way you put it. But their actions or non-actions, inaction, simply showing you where you are not connected to this place. So the forgiveness comes down to forgiving yourself for taking it personally, for thinking that there was actually any real threat. Because how can there be a threat if you are love? If that is what you are. The only thing in you that can ever be threatened, damaged, hurt is your ego. The heart doesn't break, the ego does. The heart doesn't actually get scars, the ego does. Love doesn't hurt. It's not that love is pain, it's that pain is love, but it's covered. So we're gonna do an exercise on forgiveness right now, and it'll also be in the homework. So I want you to close your eyes. Actually, do you mind, whoever wants to do this, you know, one-on-one, conversationally, and the other can close their eyes and do it for themselves? Or maybe we have enough time to do both, but whoever wants to go and share something, and we're going to help you go through this process of true forgiveness.
Hey.
Hey.
Yes, love.
So if you guys want, you can close your eyes. We always close our eyes so that we can get intimate with ourselves. We're not so distracted. We can get really honest and deep with ourselves. So Simona, would you like to share with us a particular situation, moment, instance with a particular person? Can be yesterday, can be 20 years ago, that you still haven't completely forgiven?
That's a good one. Now I have a long list of situations.
Sorry, what was that?
That now I have a long list of situations to choose from, so I'm trying to pick the right one.
Yeah, well, for this moment, any one of them is right. And when you know how to do the process, you can go over all of them.
Oh, yes.
The first one that came to your mind is probably the right one. Just go with it.
Yeah.
If there's one that lit in your mind, just go with it.
Yeah. Okay.
You feel like they feel to it, and
yeah. Mm-hmm. Should I explain it?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
So we had a discussion with my boyfriend a couple of days ago, where he explained to me that it is very important for him right now to build his company, and that he's going to spend every single little last piece of his energy into building that company. And that's something I have to accept, for example. So I'm kind of quite angry right now that I'm not really on the list of his priorities. And so I can't really come to terms with the whole thing.
All right.
So I think the thing I would say that I'm not able to forgive at this moment is that a company or business or a career takes priority before spending time with me.
Yeah. Yeah, really let yourself go into that feeling as much as you can. Allow yourself to feel, the anger, frustration, sadness. And then ask yourself, what do I feel is so painful, so unacceptable, unforgivable about this? What does it mean? What do I think it means? And share with us when you're ready.
I think that the unacceptable part, was it, right? The part of the question is that there is no balance between the work and the life. So I feel like there's just no space for me at all whatsoever. I was just completely shoved to the side.
So probably your smaller self, your ego self is saying something like, I don't feel cared for. I don't feel there's enough love and attention going my way. But what would love say? What would your higher self say in this situation?
Well, I guess just letting the person do what they feel they need to do in the moment, so not trying to control them or not trying to tell them how much time they're supposed to spend with me, for example.
Love and your higher self doesn't usually say so much about other people. It's more concerned with you and telling you that you are love. That nothing can ever be missing in any moment. No one can take love away from you. No one can add anything to what you already are. That is the illusion. So we're just going to focus on you now. Because him being by your side or not is not causing you to feel this way. Which sounds ridiculous.
Yes, it does.
We're never, ever upset for the reason that we think we are. Ever. Your ego is now using his action as a justification for you to focus outside of yourself, to reinforce your belief that anything can be lacking, that anything outside of you can make you more complete, more whole, more perfect. This is the feeling that we want to address. This is the error that we want to correct. Can you forgive yourself for thinking that someone else is your source of love?
That's not easy.
No, it's not. That's okay. Can we go a little bit deeper?
Let's do it.
Because what is underneath this? Okay, boyfriend, busy. Sounds like not the worst thing in the world. He probably still loves you. What is so scary? What is so scary or painful about him spending less time with you?
I think generally, and this is not the first occurrence of this, is that when he isn't with me, he's just having a lot of fun. He's going to places and doing things and going to the beach and whatnot, just having like a lot of fun. And then when we do spend time together, it's just like cooking, doing laundry, and sleeping. So him saying that he's going to spend even more time working sounds like it's going to be even less in balance in terms of fun.
Mm-hmm. But what is so scary about that? What is so painful about that? What do you think it means? What do you think it says about you?
Well, I definitely feel left out a lot.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you feel left out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go a little bit deeper. So what? And I don't mean that in a careless way. I mean that in a very real way. I mean that in a way of, I feel left out. Okay, again, what is so scary about that? Or painful or frustrating? What does it mean to you?
I don't know, I'm kind of struggling with the continuously like comparing myself to something or someone predominantly. So I would say maybe if I compare my life to his life, I feel like he's having more fun. And then if he decides that he's not including me into that fun, then I feel like, okay, there's a disbalance there.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we got to, I feel left out. He's having more fun. What does it mean, though, to you that he's having more fun than you are? What does that mean? What is the worst thing that could happen if he's having more fun? Okay. So? Because I still don't believe that this is the core of what's upsetting you. I still think these thoughts, these feelings are covering up something. So if I ask you, what does it matter that he's having more fun than you are? Which is not even to say that's true, but for now, this is, how you're feeling.
Yeah.
What does it matter that he's having more fun than you? What does it say about you? What do you think it says about you that he is having more fun and that you're left out?
I'm just getting complete blank right now, so I really cannot.
It's okay. Then we're
come
gonna
up with any answers or anything right now like that.
That's completely fine. You can do this again at any time and see if you can go deeper. You can also just keep this question in the back of your mind and just let it go, and the answer will come to you. So for now, we're just going to work on he's having more fun. I'm feeling left out. From a place of you being complete within yourself, you being your own source of love, of life, having everything within you, not even in your life, but literally within you. Everything that could make you happy. From that place, is it still really such a big deal that he's having fun?
I currently struggle to see it differently. So currently, yes. So I can't really flip the perspective in a way where I say I'm totally smooth sailing, everything's fine, I'm all okay at home alone while I know he's somewhere else, sharing, joy and happiness with other people and not including me into those moments.
Yeah. But his behavior can only bring out in you where you're sensing, lack inside of yourself, where you have been giving away your source of power, your source of nourishment, your source of love. And this is what you want to forgive. So even if that still feels a little bit far-fetched at the moment, give it a try. We're going to do it together. Forgive yourself for thinking that you are not complete. Forgive yourself for thinking that someone else can give you more love than what you already are. Forgive yourself for making someone else your source of nourishment, of completion. This is what you want to start nourishing, nurturing loving, healing, forgiving. This week, anytime you think of your boyfriend and his actions, just say, I forgive him. You don't have to believe it yet. You don't have to understand these things just yet. But by doing it, you are showing to yourself, your whole self, that you are willing to receive this miracle, the miracle of forgiveness. And trust me when I say it took me 10 months and it was the biggest breakthrough of my life. And trust me when I say that in the end, their actions, you know, them not giving me what I need was the best thing that ever happened to me. So that I could forgive myself for blaming someone else in not giving me love and attention. The respect that we deserve. Because we only blame others for what we feel is lacking within ourselves and what we haven't quite found yet. Forgiveness means there is nothing to forgive. It means understanding that, well, in one way to say it is no one owes us anything, but that sounds a little bit, like a bypass to not getting hurt. It is true, but I feel it's more helpful to say not no one owes us anything, but rather I am only hurting myself when I'm making others responsible for how I feel, for what I need. It's okay, to have certain desires and wants in relationships, certain standards. But they're not the point ultimately. The point is where we are with ourselves, how we are treating ourselves. There is something you are believing about yourself right now that is hurting you, and it's not him. Thank him. Thank him for his behavior. Please, 1 second, just thank him for his behavior, because all it's doing is showing you where it hurts. All he's doing is reflecting back to you an opportunity where you can fill yourself with love. How is his behavior or anyone else's behavior more valuable than that, than carrying your own source of love within? And to take it one step further, and please bear with me, his behavior is probably not even a cause, but a reflection of how you feel inside. Everyone is a mirror. All of life is a mirror, but our partner in intimate relationship is, the strongest mirror. We are in the kind of relationship that we are because we've taken back so much inside of ourselves. It's not like we are perfect. I was like, today I also have my moments about something with Tez, like, I feel here you're not doing enough, you know, here I feel lack. And it's so tempting for us to want the other person to fill up this sense of lack in ourselves. But that's never, ever, 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 ever going to happen. The best that's going to happen is that we do this work on the inside, sometimes without even mentioning it in such a way to our partners, simply by working with our beliefs, our conditioning, our scars, our definitions of what should and shouldn't be, and what this means and what this means. And once we get it, you don't have to wonder about it. You'll feel so different. You won't mind so much what your boyfriend is or isn't doing. Trust me. Well, don't trust me, but for now, just keep your mind open, your heart open to that possibility. And then usually what happens, and then we get into the realm of law of attraction, quantum mechanics, life is a mirror, everything is vibration, everything is frequency. What you put out, you get back, is that their behavior changes. Either tomorrow or next year, but to you it doesn't matter, because the ultimate prize is your heart, not their actions. And if you had no point of reference, your partner being out and doing things, it doesn't, by itself, it doesn't mean anything. But you must have had an experience at some point in your life, or related experience, that made you close your heart. And this is what is hurting, babe. You believing in something that you do not have to believe. What could be true? What are you believing that is hurting you right now? Your life circumstance is a reflection. It's not the cause of anything going inside. It's a reflection always. And that's ultimately this whole course, all of the tools are all about that. And you know, we're just 1, 2, 3 classes in. It's okay if we cannot yet quite get to what's underneath. That is you protecting yourself from the pain, you know, But we're afraid to go a little bit deeper, which usually results in, I don't know, I can't feel it. It's okay, but it's not really true. We are blocking it from our own awareness because it hurts to look there. So this week, you're going to be busy, I heard, but he's going to be out more. The very least that we can do with this situation is you looking at it like, well, that means I have some extra time to do my inner work. What a gift. I get this extra time to heal my own heart. Because it might be that his absence or appearance of absence, because in the end, you know, it's not the bodies being close together. Two people on the other side of the world can share so much love, but okay, for now, his body is going to be a bit further away from you. But probably the real fear around that is, well, maybe his heart or his attention is also further away from me. We don't even know yet if that's true. But there must be something there that's telling you that that is somehow unsafe. Somehow that it means that you're not gonna get what you need. Or maybe that it means having more time with yourself. Maybe that's scary. I cannot, no one can determine that for you. Because any situation, the same situation for different people can cause a reaction for a different reason. And no one can take that particular trigger, that particular scar away from you or heal it or soothe it before we know what it is. So take his absence as a gift, as an opportunity for you to figure this out. To put on some night, you know, one evening or one day, just take 15, 20, 30 minutes, put on some nice music, take a notebook, and sit with yourself. And keep asking yourself, why does this hurt? What does it mean? What am I afraid of? What's the worst that could happen? Because there is an answer underneath. And probably underneath that one, and underneath that one, and underneath that one. But
yeah, at what point would you say that you have the answer? Is that you just know that, or?
yeah, well, at a certain point, you're kind of like, okay, this is, usually it kind of always comes down to, in the most general sense, I am not loved, or I will not be loved, or love is conditional, or love can leave me. Something along those lines. But the few ones in between, there's going to be one or maybe two that really, like, that you're just, it doesn't even have to be the core one, because sometimes that sounds so vague in general. Sometimes it's one or two or three, like, you know, away from the core one, that really feels like so personal and so intimate to us. Like, fuck, this is the feeling that I've been struggling with my whole life. For me, one of the things was, I'm not a good person. That's a big one for me. Which then relates to, you know, like, if I behave like myself, if I am myself, people will judge me and leave me and not love me. And then with that core belief, that is where you do the forgiveness. That is where you do the healing. that is where you forgive the other person for triggering it in you and thinking that there was ever anything to gain from them regarding your own wound. That's where you look at the statements and it feels like, whoa, oh, so painful, like, oh. But to really look at it and then ask yourself, is that true? Does that make sense? Would love say that? Would love say I am not good enough? Or God or your higher self? So slowly come back.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Because I can tell, like I was also with my eyes closed, but now I can tell, like for you, this was already obviously, you know, going deeper and deeper.
Yeah, but it was funny. At some point, it was really just like white in front of my eyes. It was like, nope, nope, this door stays closed. Nope, not tonight. So,
yeah, so maybe, you know, I want to do as much as I can, but I will not force myself through your wall because before you're ready. And I really, really, next class, you know, that is my hope, that you're going to come to us with what it was, what it is. And if not, that's fine too, but this is why you're in class, you know?
sure, no, I'm really curious what it is. So,
You know, the thing is, in the end, everything always completely comes down to the same thing, but that's going very deep, very general, and usually it just feels too much of a concept, a theory. The only cause of any of our suffering is, you know, that we forgot who we are, that we think we're separate from God, from love, from source. That is what's bothering you. However, you as the person that you're here, you had other things happen in your life, other situations and thoughts and belief systems being built up that feel a little bit more personal to you, that you're like, okay, yes, I can relate to that. Like if I say you're suffering because you have an ego, it's like, well, okay, that's a bit easy. In the end, it's true, but it might not be the thing that's really going to do the trick for you to, yeah, it needs to be a little bit more specific and general usually. Yeah. So really, thank you for going as deep as you did. And we're gonna keep going throughout the weeks.
Yeah, when you sit down to meditate, Simona, create a setting that's beautiful, that you enjoy. This is not supposed to be where you sit down and like have to dig hard and it's a headache or something. Just create a beautiful setting, candles and incense, music, and as you meditate and just be settled into this blissful, beautiful state, then ask yourself in love, remember yourself as the 3, 4, 5-year-old child, and love yourself like that, and ask yourself, your higher mind, just ask what you're desiring to find out, like where am I having this belief that limits me from experiencing the fullness of who I am. And it's going to come to you, no rush. You have to understand your higher mind is way more interested in your evolution, in your highest joy, love, and expression than you think is possible for you. And so just allow it to come. No push, no pull. There's nothing that must happen. Ciao, love.
I'm going to email the homework. Yeah. Bye, love. Thank you for joining.
Yes.
Yeah, one thing that could really help in you going deeper is to remind yourself before you start doing a little digging work, is to know that whatever you find, ultimately it's an illusion. It's not true. You're going to find thoughts about yourself. You're going to find thoughts that do not feel nice at all, like I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not a good person. But the thing to remember, what makes it safe to go there, is that is not the truth. Those are just things that you started to believe somewhere along the way. And you will be not left in that darkness. So you can traverse, you can descend into your darkness, because what you're doing by going there ultimately is shining the light on there. So we have to get a little bit uncomfortable, or a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. But it's better to have that discomfort in a moment and to shine the light on it, whether it's now or next week with us, than to keep this buried and hidden within you, still feeling the effects, just not consciously, but in your life experience for the rest of your life. Yeah?
No, totally get it. And it's also funny because you said that these kind of experiences keep on repeating. And this is definitely not the first time I'm being told that you're, on my list of priorities. I used to have my boyfriends when I was 16. They would say computer games are number one. Then there's cars. Then there's God knows what. Then it's you. So it was always the same or very similar situation, actually.
Of course, yes. And you can include these experiences in your search work as well. For me, it had to do with, and this is also why we had the exercise for this week, but we didn't get to it, so we'll do it next week. There's a synopsis, there's a story going on in our mind. One of your stories is, well, I'm not their priority. That or whatever it is along those lines. Yeah. That is a tape that you have somewhere, and there is a reason for that tape. My tape was, one day they'll just up and leave out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? And I kept repeating until I was just, okay, what is going on?
Yeah, I think one thing that keeps on coming back now for at least, I think, a week or two is that I'm invisible. And I remember when I was a kid even, and people would recognize me, be like, hey, Simona. I was shocked that they remember me, because I thought, how can you remember me? My face is so generic that in a crowd of people, you would never be able to spot me. So I now actually very recently, as I'm now kind of really thinking about these things, realized that already as a child, I was just shocked that someone remembers me after meeting me for once or something, that the second time they still remember me. And I feel like now also in like business meetings and whatnot, when I write an email, I'm writing it with this feeling of course they have no idea who I am, but maybe they'll remember. So that's kind of starts to come under the surface now.
Yes. Yeah. And ultimately these things are all super connected, interconnected. They usually point all towards the same thing. There's one core belief, ego, separation, and then there's a few core beliefs, and then all these millions of thoughts and triggers, and and in the end, usually when you bust one core belief, sometimes the next one also go, because it's a mess in there. It's a cobweb, and we're just going to clean out the cobwebs.
Yay.
Yeah, thank you for your participation today.
Thank you very much for the attention and the time. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so did we.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Dante's Inferno?
I've heard about it, but not in full detail.
Well, the general idea of the story is going through hell and coming out the other side. In our evolution as consciousness, through this earth masterclass of limitation, for consciousness is unlimited, so to limit itself is for the sake of expansion. And when you're diving in fully, with no holding back of things you believed in or things you've held dear, for the sake of your revelation of realizing yourself, then you're going to come out. Where you seek, you find. You're going to come out the other side. But as this happens, dive in. Don't with no, you're here, so I'm feeling you're here to do it. And what I want to tell you is, if you're doing it full on, you're going to come out the other side. If the pattern seems to repeat itself, these feelings don't go away, it means you're not looking deep enough. And that's not, if there's no judgment, neither from us, neither from consciousness, source energy, no judgment whatsoever. It's just that you limit yourself from experiencing and being your highest possible version.
You'll find it once you're truly ready to find it, which is usually once we've had enough of all the pain, and like truly enough of the pain and the suffering. And before that time, you know, because you mentioned seek and you will find. Well, that depends. If you're looking on the outside, like my boyfriend is doing this, and don't get me wrong, we all still do that. Even if you noticed 100 million times, like I did, like, oh yeah, every time I'm there, that's the ego speaking, and it never finds. Because there is no source of suffering out there. There simply isn't. They're just excuses for our suffering. The moment you start to look here, that's the higher self, and you will find. But until the moment we are really ready to take responsibility for our own, you know, either suffering or experience of love, yeah, we'll keep looking there. And we can do that many lifetimes. And yeah, the moment we're like, okay, now I'm ready. Now I want unconditional love and happiness. I want inner peace. Truly, then it's not going to take very long. Might be 1 month, might be 1 year, but from that moment it will go pretty fast. All right, love. Have a nice evening and a nice
Thank you very much.
Anything you'd like to say before leaving?
Sorry?
Is there anything you'd like to say before leaving, or?
No, I think I was just, or maybe just to repeat the homework to understand also, because you mentioned the visualizations, and you mentioned the visualizations of being in love with someone else the last lesson. So it was really imagining the ideal relationship and how it feels. And now this lesson you said imagining the unconditional love with the higher source.
Yeah. Oh, I don't remember that. I think, yeah.
It was more just an example of how a relationship could work. You guys were saying the example of that's what you guys are experiencing right now should be the standard. Yes. And that people kind of only experience it for a very short time. So it was more this whole imagine how your really ideal relationship would look like, and make the colors and the smells and everything tuned up.
I think we're going to bring that one back, and also the one that was actually meant for this class but we didn't get to. So the homework for this week is take a moment every morning and tune into that feeling of being love, being in love with yourself, with life, and also, you know, God, your higher self, your true being in love with you, simply being in a state of being in love, whatever that feels like for you. Even just a minute can be enough. Filling up your own cup of love, so that we, you know, at least we turn in. We live from the inside out rather than the outside in, trying to fill us up. Fill yourself up and then just open up.
But even I find myself like even visualizing, let's say, the love from the universe or whatever that is, because it's hard to describe with words, but let's imagine a God or something, a bright light. It still, to me, feels like an external source eventually if I visualize it. So I just feel like there is something to lean back on, but it's not me myself, right? There is just some sort of substance in the background that loves me unconditionally.
But that, in the end, like, there is literally nothing outside of yourself. So if you can use something outside of you to activate it inside of you, for now, that doesn't
work. Okay.
Yeah, and then the other one is the forgiveness. find the person that's hardest to forgive, the situation, and do the exercise we just did. I'm also going to put it in the email.
Do you have like a set of questions that we can use for that?
Yeah, they're also in the handouts, but
Okay,
I will clarify it for this week's homework.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
See you
Have a
next
nice
week.
evening.
You too.
See you next week. Bye-bye.